Welcome to Streaming News Network by Claude McDaniel. News without the hype and biased reporting. Please like and subscribe.
This is Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. The Trump administration has reportedly blocked a planned meeting between New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani and Colombian President Gustavo Petro, escalating tensions between Washington and the left-leaning Colombian leader. According to multiple reports, U.S. officials informed Colombian authorities that a meeting between Mamdani and Petro in New York would violate restrictions currently placed on Petro's travel privileges in the United States. Colombian officials reportedly interpreted the warning as a sign that Petro could face legal consequences if the meeting moved forward. The restrictions stem from comments Petro made in September of 2025, when he publicly urged American military personnel to disobey orders from President Donald Trump. U.S. officials have maintained that visas are a privilege and can be revoked when foreign leaders encourage U.S. service members to ignore lawful commands. Relations between Trump and Petro have remained strained despite what Trump previously described as a positive White House meeting earlier this year. Petro has continued to criticize U.S. foreign policy, particularly regarding Israel and Gaza, while also challenging American actions in Latin America. The canceled meeting was scheduled for Friday and was expected to include a public discussion at a university. It would have marked one of Mamdani's most high-profile international political engagements to date. This is Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. New records show that more than 400 nuisance alligators have been removed from Walt Disney World property since the tragic death of a 2-year-old boy nearly a decade ago. State wildlife records indicate that at least 414 alligators have been captured and removed from Disney property since June of 2016, when Lane Thomas Graves was attacked and killed while vacationing with his family at Disney's Grand Floridian Resort. The toddler was playing near the shoreline of the Seven Seas Lagoon when an alligator emerged from the water and dragged him away. His father attempted a rescue, but Lane was found deceased the following day. Records show that alligator removals increased significantly after the tragedy. In 2016 alone, 83 alligators were removed from Disney property, followed by 57 the next year. Since then, an average of roughly 3 dozen alligators have been captured annually, with at least 12 removed during the first 4 months of 2026. Following the attack, Disney installed warning signs, protective fencing, and shoreline barriers around its lakes and waterways. The company has also continued working with Florida wildlife officials to identify and remove potentially dangerous animals. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission says its nuisance alligator program is designed to protect people, pets, and property while managing the state's large alligator population. Statewide, more than 8,700 nuisance alligators were removed in 2024 alone. This is Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. Authorities in Sacramento are searching for the driver involved in a deadly hit-and-run crash that claimed the life of a 9-year-old girl and seriously injured a man Thursday evening. Police say the collision occurred shortly before 8 o'clock in Sacramento's Oak Park neighborhood, near the intersection of 36th Street and 19th Avenue. Investigators report that a vehicle struck a minibike carrying the victims before fleeing the scene. The 9-year-old child died as a result of injuries sustained in the crash. An adult male was also seriously injured and transported to a local hospital, where officials say he is expected to survive. The vehicle involved had already left the area before officers arrived, and police have not released a description of the suspect vehicle. Investigators have also not disclosed additional details about the circumstances leading up to the collision. The Sacramento Police Department says the investigation remains active and is urging anyone who may have witnessed the crash or has information about the vehicle involved to come forward. Anyone with information is encouraged to contact Sacramento Police. This is Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. Police in Tampa, Florida, are searching for a man accused of intentionally using his vehicle to strike a nightclub security guard, resulting in the guard's death. Authorities say 32-year-old Jose Zamora Valdez is wanted on charges of murder and aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. Investigators allege the incident began in the early morning hours Sunday at an after-hours nightclub in northern Tampa, where Valdez reportedly became involved in an altercation with a woman he knew. According to police, a security guard escorted Valdez from the club following the disturbance. After reaching the parking lot, Valdez allegedly got into his vehicle and made a deliberate turn toward the guard, striking him as he walked to his own car with a friend. The security guard suffered critical injuries and was transported to a hospital, where he later died. A second victim sustained minor injuries and survived. Police say Valdez fled the scene and abandoned the vehicle, which has since been recovered by investigators. What was initially investigated as a hit-and-run has now been reclassified as a homicide case. The Tampa Police Department, working alongside federal authorities and the United States Marshals Task Force, continues its search for Valdez. Anyone with information on his whereabouts is urged to contact law enforcement immediately. This is J. Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. A new national survey suggests that several of President Donald Trump's immigration policies continue to receive strong public support, even as the president's overall approval ratings have declined. The Harvard-Harris poll, conducted among 1,725 registered voters between May 29 and May 31, found that 56% of respondents support the deportation of illegal immigrants. Support included 77% of Republicans, 53% of Independents, and 37% of Democrats. The survey found even broader agreement on deporting illegal immigrants who commit additional crimes while in the United States. Overall support reached 80%, including strong majorities across all major political affiliations. According to the poll, immigration enforcement ranked among the administration's most popular policy areas, alongside efforts to lower drug prices and reduce government waste. Not every proposal received majority support. A plan to hire an additional 20,000 Border Patrol and Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents received 47% support overall, though it was backed by nearly three-quarters of Republican respondents. Meanwhile, polling averages show the president's overall job approval rating has declined since the start of his second term, highlighting a gap between support for some individual policies and public views of the administration as a whole. This is J. Claude McDaniel of Streaming News Network. President Donald Trump is calling for Maryland Congressman Jamie Raskin to be expelled from Congress, reigniting a long-running political feud between the two men. The president made the comments Thursday on social media while responding to concerns from conservative commentator Mark Levin that Democrats could pursue another impeachment effort if they regain control of the House of Representatives following the midterm elections. Trump accused Raskin of leading past impeachment efforts against him and criticized the congressman's role on the House committee that investigated the January 6 attack on the U.S. Capitol. The president also claimed that Raskin would face legal jeopardy if he had not received a pardon from former President Joe Biden before Trump's second inauguration. Raskin, a Democrat from Maryland, was among several members of the January 6 committee who received preemptive pardons from Biden amid concerns they could become targets of future investigations. Responding during a television interview Thursday evening, Raskin dismissed Trump's remarks and suggested the president was worried about the possibility of future impeachment proceedings. The congressman argued that presidents can avoid impeachment by following constitutional limits on executive authority, including matters involving war powers, spending decisions, and tariffs. The exchange marks the latest chapter in a contentious relationship that dates back to Trump's first term and the impeachment proceedings that followed. This is J. Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. Newly released internal documents are shedding light on controversy surrounding a 2021 Justice Department memo that addressed threats and disruptions at local school board meetings. The documents, obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request by a conservative legal organization, indicate that some senior law enforcement officials expressed concerns before the memo was issued. Among them was a senior Federal Bureau of Investigation official who requested additional time for discussions with Justice Department leaders, suggesting there were unresolved differences over the planned guidance. The memo, issued in October 2021 by then-Attorney General Merrick Garland, directed federal authorities to coordinate with state and local officials in response to what the department described as an increase in threats, harassment, and intimidation directed at school board members, teachers, and staff. The issue emerged during heated nationwide debates over pandemic-related school policies, curriculum concerns, and other education issues. Critics argued at the time that the memo could be used to target parents exercising their First Amendment rights at public meetings. The newly released records also reveal that officials within the National Sheriff's Association questioned the need for federal involvement, reportedly stating they had not seen widespread threats against local school boards. Republican lawmakers and advocacy groups have renewed criticism of the memo, arguing it reflected political targeting of concerned parents. Former Biden administration officials have maintained that the directive was intended to address legitimate threats and ensure the safety of public servants. This is J. Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development has announced it is suspending funding to Los Angeles' primary homelessness services agency while a federal investigation moves forward. Federal officials say the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, commonly known as LAHSA, is under scrutiny over allegations involving financial management failures, accountability concerns, and what the department described as repeated false statements. According to housing and urban development officials, the agency has received approximately $1 billion in government funding over the past 5 years. Federal investigators will now examine how those funds were managed and whether adequate safeguards were in place. Housing and Urban Development Secretary Scott Turner said taxpayers should expect greater accountability for homelessness spending, noting that homelessness in Los Angeles has remained a significant challenge despite substantial public investment. The funding suspension comes as the department's Inspector General formally opens an investigation into the agency. Federal officials say permanent debarment from receiving federal funds remains a possibility depending on the outcome of the probe. LAHSA was created jointly by the City and County of Los Angeles to coordinate federal, state, and local homelessness funding. The agency works with roughly 100 nonprofit organizations that provide shelter and support services throughout the region. Earlier this year, LAHSA announced a major restructuring after Los Angeles County created its own homelessness services department, resulting in staffing reductions and organizational changes. This is Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. Florida Senator Rick Scott is calling on the U.S. Department of Justice to expand its investigation into a California voter fraud case involving a woman who admitted to paying individuals to register to vote. In a letter sent to senior Justice Department officials, Scott urged a broader review of potential election-related misconduct, arguing that Americans deserve confidence in the integrity of the voting process. The request follows a federal case involving Brenda Lee Brown Armstrong, a Marina del Rey woman who recently agreed to plead guilty to a felony charge of paying another person to register to vote in a federal election. According to federal prosecutors, Armstrong worked for years as a paid petition circulator and allegedly recruited individuals, including homeless residents living in Los Angeles' Skid Row area, to complete voter registration forms and sign petitions in exchange for money, cigarettes, and other items. Court documents also allege that Armstrong sometimes instructed registrants to use a former Los Angeles address connected to her, potentially allowing election-related mail to be sent to a location she controlled. Senator Scott says the public deserves a full accounting of the facts, including whether others were involved and whether similar activities occurred elsewhere. Federal authorities have not announced any broader investigation at this time, but the case continues to draw attention from lawmakers focused on election security and voter integrity.
Thank you for listening to Streaming News Network videos and shorts. Please like and subscribe to our news channel.